This is The World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. Welcome to the Friday edition, the part of the week where later in my podcast I share with you the stories that make you pause mid-coffee and say, "Seriously, Jeff?" And I answer back, "Yes, seriously, Wolfpack listeners." It gets crazier and crazier, even away from the mainstream news. The segment is called News from the Edge of Sanity. I try to bring a little laughter before you head into your weekend. But before I get to that, let's talk about the real news stories from the last 48 hours, which sometimes rival the bizarre ones. Okay, here we go. Tuesday night was a blue tsunami. Not a wave, not a swell, not a gentle current, a full-on political tidal surge that crashed over the country like Mother Nature had finally said enough and hit the giant blue reset button. Democrats won everywhere. If a voting booth had a pulse, it turned blue. If a ballot box sneezed, it turned blue. If the wind blew even slightly to the left, the district went Democratic. It was the kind of night that sends a jolt of electricity through your system, a night that makes you sit up straight and think maybe the country still has a heartbeat. Maybe we are not completely lost in this carnival funhouse we call America. Tuesday night gave people hope. Real hope. The kind you can feel right under your skin. And yet here we are, only a couple of days later, and what is the mood? Already fading in certain places, already slipping, already dissolving back into the usual American fog. People woke up Wednesday and said, "That was nice," and then went right back to business as usual. It's like the emotional half-life of a good news in this country is 17 minutes. We get a win. By lunchtime the next day, the national attitude is right back to this strange mix of anxiety and resignation. Which brings me to the question we never ask enough. Where do we go from here? How do you sustain momentum in a country where political victories evaporate faster than a raindrop in the Arizona sun? How do you turn a win into action? How do you keep people awake long enough to realize that winning on a Tuesday means nothing if everyone falls back asleep by Thursday? Because while Democrats were still sweeping up confetti and enjoying the glow of Tuesday night, Donald Trump was already out there performing the full three-ring circus. He's now claiming, I swear to you, if you haven't heard this, Donald is now claiming that all the election results Tuesday night were rigged. All of them. Fake, phony, dishonest, totally invalid, he said. Every race, every country, or county rather, every outcome. Trump was not even on the ballot, and he's insisting he won. Seriously, he is insisting that he won by a lot. Trump is claiming victory in races he did not participate in. This is not politics anymore. This is a psychological safari. This is the moment where you look at the president and wonder if his brain is operating on the same software as the rest of us. Donald has drifted into full dementia land. He's left the building. He's now calling the victories in Virginia fake. The wins in New York, fake. The results in New Jersey, fake. Everything fake, except Donald. Trump is like a person insisting the sun is fake while standing outside and getting sunburned in real time. And because Tuesday's voting results punched the Republican Party right in the throat, Trump has already moved to the next shiny distraction: affordability. Suddenly, Donald cares deeply about affordability. Suddenly, the cost of living is his great mission. Remember the eggs? Suddenly, the man who lived on gold-plated toilets and turned the White House into a discount hotel chain is telling the country he understands economic pain. I'll give everyone a moment to stop laughing. This is the magician pulling a coin out of your ear and hoping you forget he just saw the volunteer in half 5 minutes earlier. So what do we do with this? We tie it together. We put the pieces in the correct order. Democrats won big. That matters. That is momentum. That is energy. But momentum without a follow-through is just a good story you tell yourself in the mirror. At the same time, the president is now shouting into the void about fake elections he did not even run in. He's inventing imaginary victories. Donald is conjuring conspiracy theories so bizarre they make flat earthers look like sober accountants. And Trump is using the word affordability as a smokescreen to distract people from the beating his party just took on Thursday night. This is the landscape. On one side, you have real wins and real energy. On the other side, you have fantasy victories and collapsing logic. And right in the middle, you have the American voter who is exhausted, overwhelmed, and constantly being jerked between hope and panic. The question is whether we can keep the country awake long enough to turn Tuesday night into more than a 24-hour sugar high. Whether we can convert that moment of clarity into sustained movement. Now, whether we can stop letting the noise machine drown out achievements that actually matter. Because Tuesday proves something important. When people show up, democracy still works. When people pay attention, the system still moves. When people reject the carnival barkers and the chaos peddlers, real change is possible. The job now is to stay awake, stay focused, stay engaged, yes, stay hopeful, like I say at the end of every show, and not let this moment slip back into the fog. Oh, by the way, Wolfpack listeners, a quick side note before I land this, in case you haven't seen this. Apparently, someone passed out inside the White House, inside the Oval Office, and while everyone rushed to help this person, Donald Trump just stood there, showing on photos, staring off into space. Oblivious, unconcerned, unbothered, completely disconnected from the human moment happening right in front of him. Trump looked like a man trapped in his own private bubble, a separate universe. Not exactly unusual for him, but it tells you everything you need to know about his attitude and his priorities. Let that image sit with you. It deserves a big underline and a giant highlight pen across the page. This is a world gone mad, and every day Trump and MAGA find new ways to make it even madder and madder every single minute. It's just insane. Speaking of insanity, let me get to the stories that prove the planet's now officially in improv mode. It's that time on my Friday show, News from the Edge of Sanity, where I bring you the weird, offbeat news stories that you just roll your eyes on. Okay, ready? A letter shows up in your mailbox. Nothing unusual, just one of those official-looking envelopes that looks like it contains something boring enough to ignore for a few hours. 500 people in Maine opened that exact kind of envelope last week. 500 households. 500 moments of total normalcy right up until the second they pulled out the paper inside the envelope. Then came the shock, because the letter was addressed to them by name. But the message inside of the envelope was written to their families. And the letter informed those families that the person holding the letter was dead. Yep. Imagine standing in your kitchen, reading a letter that says, "You have passed away." The envelope has your name on it, the letter inside, speaks to your loved ones. It offers condolences. It explains how to handle your estate. It gently walks your family through the steps of saying farewell, while you are very much alive, breathing, blinking, trying to understand whether you just got mail from the afterlife or the entire healthcare system is having a full-on nervous breakdown. This is not a light mistake. This is not a wrong address. This is not someone clicking the wrong checkbox. This is a 5-alarm bureaucratic meltdown that somehow declared hundreds of living people dead and then mailed them the instructions for their own post-life affairs. Picture yourself opening that letter. You read the words, "We are sorry for your loss," and your brain short circuits. You look around your kitchen like the room might confirm whether you exist. You check your pulse. You check the date. You check the return address just to make sure the universe has not flipped upside down while you were making coffee. Then you have to call the healthcare system. You have to speak to an actual human being and say the sentence no one should ever have to say. Ring, ring. Hello. Hi. I just received a letter informing my family that I have died. I would like to report that I have not. Do they apologize? Do they put you on hold? And does the hold music feel extra awkward while you're waiting to prove you're not a corpse? This is the kind of glitch that makes you question whether the world is being held together by rubber bands and expired printer ink. A software error convinced a major healthcare system to send condolence letters to 500 people who were alive enough to open the mail. Here's the real masterpiece of this madness. Every one of those 500 people had to confirm they were still alive. Imagine filling out paperwork to prove you still exist. Imagine explaining to customer service that despite what their system says, you have not entered the great beyond. This is pure news from the edge of sanity territory. A clerical hallucination delivered to your front door. A friendly reminder from the universe that even your mail might try to bury you before your time. Welcome to Friday, where the absurd is always right on schedule. All right, we all know the Guinness Book of World Records, right? For some reason, the human species loves nothing more than saying, I can do a ridiculous thing better than anyone else. And I want my name printed in a book next to the guy who balanced 7 lawnmowers on his chin. This has been going on forever, since prehistoric times. Somewhere in a caveman stood up one morning and said, Today is the day. I, Grog, am going to outrun more dinosaurs than any other caveman in the village. And if I die in the process, I want credit. And look, if I ever decided I wanted my name in that book of Guinness World Records, I have ideas, big ideas. Maybe I would try to set the record for the world's longest rant about the Arizona heat during the summer. Maybe I would attempt to speak continuously without coming up for air while talking about Trump's brain melting like a cheap candle. Maybe I would try to record an episode of A World Gone Mad every single hour on the hour for 24 straight hours, just to give the Wolfpack listeners a marathon of madness before I slide off my chair like a plate of microwave pudding. But I can tell you one thing with absolute certainty: at no point in my life did I ever think I wanted to put hours in of training to break the world record of how high I can catch ice cream dropped from the sky. Because one man in Idaho woke up one morning and said that exact thing. He looked at his life, he looked at his choices, he looked at his schedule. He decided that day the one true mission of his existence was to stand there with an ice cream cone and catch a scoop of ice cream being dropped from 55 feet and 5 inches from the sky. This was not an accident. This was not something that just happened when his friend on a ladder got clumsy. This man trained for this goal. He practiced for this goal. He devoted time and energy and focus to becoming the Michael Jordan of sky-dropped dairy. Imagine being his neighbor. You look out your window one afternoon, and there he is in his backyard holding an empty ice cream cone while his friend is perched halfway up a tall tree with a scoop of ice cream raised over his head like he's summoning the dairy gods. It is the kind of thing that makes you close the blinds slowly so you do not become part of whatever ceremony is taking place. And as you do so, you mutter quietly to yourself, "Why?" But he did it. He caught that scoop of ice cream. He caught it clean with the cone, like the universe said, "Fine, you want this, you can have it." And Guinness World Records confirmed it. The man is officially the reigning monarch of sky to cone butter pecan ice cream retrieval. And you know what? I respect the absurdity. I respect the dedication. But I also have to ask the obvious question. Why? Why is this the hill anyone chooses to climb? Why is this the moment where you say, forget my career, forget my family, forget my free time, I must conquer the sky with a cone? We all dream of greatness. Some of us just dream differently. Welcome to the edge of sanity, where even ice cream has a higher work ethic than 90% of the politicians in Washington. That's your news from the edge of sanity, where craziness is not just confined to the Oval Office or the Congress and the Senate. It could be found anywhere between the seams of reality on our planet. Hope you've enjoyed that and the rest of today's episode. If you did, I would love to hear from you. I'm still fighting that uphill battle, asking all of you for your feedback. wolfpacktalks@gmail.com. I want to thank the handful of you that do take the time to write to me and give me your opinions and thoughts. This is A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. I will be back Monday. Until then, Wolfpack listeners, remain skeptical, keep focused, but most of all, stay hopeful.